What's up, guys? Thanks for joining another episode of Cars, Bikes, and Coffee, where we like to save and restore cars. My name's Kurt, and we are driving a 1988 Porsche 944. This is the base model. It's not a turbo, but it still deserves to be saved. This has a little over 200,000 miles on it, but has been well taken care of. Not sure about these redone seats in the red and black, but they are still comfortable. So what we're doing is we're driving this around. There is a little bit of a hum I'm hearing from the wheel bearings possibly. So we'll want to check that out. There are a couple things that this has issues with. The fan only blows on high. The hood and the rear hatch slams shut, so the struts need to be replaced. And just a few odds and ends to really make this 944 go well. So stay tuned. But other than that, this car is fun to drive.
So where we're going to start, because we're going to need to work in the engine bay and at least just get them done, is fixing these struts. So we're going to start in the back, and as you can see, they do not stay open. So we're going to get a prop for this and get the struts that we ordered and replace these really quick. Alright, so next what we want to do is repair this hood strut, and basically the way we're going to fix that is with one of these ball ends. And originally down here they were welded in, so we're going to bolt this in. We will have to customize this just a little bit, make that hole a little bit bigger, and then possibly cut down that bolt so it fits in that tight space. Alright, after all that wrangling, this side, the passenger side, gave a little issue. Used one of these rubber strap tools to pull up on the bottom eyelet. Now popped it right in. So let's see if we did this right. Well, the hood stays open. Awesome. Now we can finish up the rest of the things going on with this Porsche. I'm going to go ahead and move inside, and what we're going to be doing here is a few things. We need to pull this stereo. It's wired up to a switch that's on this side that we need to take out and fix, and also this trim piece. It's cracked right by the clock, and actually we found the clock in the center console, so we're going to be rebuilding that because the display is bad. So what we need to do is pull all of this trim piece off, pull the stereo, and we also need to route this antenna cable and hide it up inside of the headliner. So now that we have the dash panel off and the stereo out and the map pocket out, we can really go through this wiring. And the first thing that I did off camera was the original antenna was cut and stripped. So I went and found where the lead of that, so we're going to solder on a new end to this and then go through this wiring. Took out a whole mess of wires. Not sure what that was trying to be, but we're going to fix this, get that all in. We're going to go ahead and rebuild the clock, which goes in this spot, plugs in here, and then put in the new trim panel and put that all back together. So next up is to rebuild that clock. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at fixing this clock. Now the display you can see here was destroyed, and this happens to a lot of these. And they sell a kit from 914 Rubber that we got online. So we're going to go ahead and put it in a time lapse and go ahead and repair this. Alright, so we went ahead and wanted to test it, and look at that. We have a working clock and a stopwatch. Alright, so now what we want to do is go ahead and attach this and put all this trim piece back in. And we also went ahead and resoldered and repaired the stock radio antenna, and then cleaned up the wiring so that everything here is all done and ready to go back. So now our trim is all back in, looks awesome. So now we're going to turn our attention to the blower. And when we turn it, nothing comes on until the very high. So the way we're going to approach that is under the hood. So the area we're going to look at is right under here. What we need to do is take this plastic panel off. There'll be a little tiny box that we're going to have to open up and remove an electronic part. So we're going to do that and then bring it to the bench to clean it up. And that might solve our problem. So we got the fan resistor pack out, and we could definitely replace this and spend a few $100s for this, but what we want to do is actually not spend that and just clean the contacts inside of here, and that most likely is our problem. So what we're going to do is just lightly sand, see this right in between here, these contacts, and these where it plugs in is fine, and so is the harness, but this is our main area that we're going to look at to clean. And the way we're going to clean that is just using some fine grit around 400. I have 320, that should be fine, but just very lightly to sand in between. And that should clean it up. Alright, so we went ahead and cleaned up those thermal fuses, and the best way we found was to take a little toothpick and just spread out the gap and use an X-Acto knife or a small blade to scratch the two contact points. And the moment of truth. Alright, so now what we want to do is we have a problem where on the dash we have tack, but we don't have the speedometer. So what we're going to do is pull the gauge cluster off and then take a look at the nylon gear that runs the speedometer. Sometimes it is known for those to wear out, so let's take a look. So after taking the gauges apart, lo and behold, it is the speedometer gear that is broke. I don't know if you can see that, but it basically is split in half. So this is the little motor that keeps the speedometer going and the odometer. So we've gone ahead and ordered a new gear, so we'll get that fixed. So we received our speedometer gear, and what we need to do here is first we're going to remove the needle, and that just pulls off and undo these two screws. There's a couple screws underneath that keep this. So what we're going to do is go ahead and remove that and go into these gears, remove them, so we can replace the speedometer gear. Alright, it's really that simple. So what we did, we went ahead and replaced the odometer gear, and we used some clock oil. That's this guy right here, and just lubricated the gears. And now we are set to put this back in the gauge cluster and get it back in the car. So we have finished up the interior of the Porsche 944, and so now we need to turn our attention to those axle bearings. We think that is what's causing that nasty hum that you probably heard in the intro. And then also there's something we need to check out in the engine compartment. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys like what you see, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, don't forget to share, and most importantly, you guys have a good one.